All right, let's talk about a generation that's doing more than just coming of age. They're basically rewriting the entire rulebook on money. We are talking, of course, about Gen Z. And trust me, their financial DNA is like nothing we've ever seen before. Let's get right into it. So I want to start with just one number, 56%. Just look at it for a second. What do you think that represents? Is it, I don't know, the number of them who are on a new social media app? Maybe it's how many prefer streaming over cable? The real answer is actually way more surprising, and it really gets to the core of who they are financially. Yep, that's right. A full 56% of Americans between 18 and 25 are already investing. I mean, that just completely shatters the old stereotype of young people being, careless with money. They are not waiting around, they are jumping into the market, and they're starting early. But what they're investing in? Well, that's where the story gets really interesting. And that brings us to what's actually in their portfolio. It looks less like your parents' 401k, and honestly, a lot more like something from the digital frontier. It is a totally new way of thinking about building wealth. Just look at this. Their number one pick? Cryptocurrency. A whopping 55% of Gen Z investors hold it. That is their go-to asset class. It's even more popular than individual stocks, and it just leaves traditional mutual funds, the absolute foundation of their parents' retirement plans, way, way behind. So you have to ask, right? If they're skipping the traditional investments, are they also skipping the traditional financial advisors? Oh, yeah. The answer is a huge, resounding yes. And this slide right here, this explains everything. Their financial advisors are YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. A full 60% are learning about investing on YouTube. Now, this digital-first mindset, it naturally points them toward digital assets like crypto. But it also creates this super high-speed information world where trends and, misinformation can just explode overnight. So what kind of investor does all this create? Well, a very specific one. Nearly half of them are totally comfortable taking on big financial risks. A full 50% admit they've bought an investment just because of FOMO, the fear of missing out. And to top it all off, almost half of them are pretty sure they know more about investing than their own parents. It's this wild mix of confidence, risk-taking, and social pressure. But here's the thing, it's not the whole story, not even close. Because while 56% of Gen Z is investing, that leaves a massive 44% who aren't. And when you look a little closer, you start to see this huge divide running right through the middle of the generation. I mean, this data paints a crystal clear picture. Gen Z investors are way more likely to be men, to have a college degree, and to come from families earning over 75 grand a year. Think about it. Among those with a college degree, you're almost twice as likely to be an investor. This isn't just a small trend, it's a major demographic split. So, what's holding the other group back? Well, the reasons are incredibly down to earth. 2/3 say they flat out don't have enough savings or income. They're just living paycheck to paycheck. And more than half feel like they just don't know enough to even get started. It's really a story about access, both to money and to knowledge. And this slide really drives that point home. Just look at the difference in their financial goals. On one side, you have the investors, who are thinking long-term, building emergency funds, saving for retirement. On the other side, the non-investors are focused on right now, on just surviving, being able to pay this month's bills. We're not just talking about different goals. These are two completely different financial realities happening in the very same generation. So how do you bridge these two worlds, the crypto trading investor and the person just trying to make rent? Well, it turns out there's one really traditional goal that's still a huge deal for pretty much everyone, owning a home. And as this quote gets at, it's a dream they are willing to make some serious sacrifices for. It's like this tangible piece of stability in a pretty crazy, volatile world. So let's follow that thread. How does this all translate from a digital wallet to a physical front door? How is this generation actually tackling the biggest investment most people ever make? So the latest numbers show that just over 27% of Gen Z now owns a home. Now that might seem like a small number, but it is climbing, which really shows how determined they are, especially in such a tough market. But how does that actually stack up against the generations that came before them? Well, when we compare everyone at the same age, let's say age 28, we can see that Gen Z is actually lagging a bit behind. About 38% are homeowners by then, but for Gen X, it was over 42%, and for boomers, it was over 44%. So yeah, they are eager to buy, but they are definitely up against some stronger economic headwinds than their parents and grandparents were. And this is where you see just how pragmatic they can be. What they want, their dream home, is this amazing, sustainable, tech-filled house. But the reality of what they can afford, it's older homes, smaller spaces, and compromising on where they live. They're making those hard choices to just get a foot on the property ladder and start building some equity. So, when you pull all of these different threads together, the crypto portfolios, the massive investment divide, and this very practical chase for a traditional home, what does it all tell us about where finance is headed? Okay, let's boil it all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, Gen Z are absolutely investors, and they got started way earlier than anyone expected. Second, their portfolios are built for a digital world. They're heavy on crypto, and they are not scared of risk. Third, there's a huge divide in the generation, and it's driven by real-world things like income and education. And finally, they're surprisingly adaptable, mixing this new school investing with very old-school goals. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. You've got a generation that was basically raised on crypto and FOMO, and now they're buying houses. They have already broken so many of the old financial rules, so you have to wonder, what rules are they going to rewrite next?